We now welcome on Nick Roush of KSR, covers the Wildcats for On Three's Kentucky affiliate. Nick, thank you so much. Good to see you again. I'll probably see you in Atlanta soon, but thanks for coming and talking about the Cats.
Oh man, I'm fired up for Atlanta because then we can. It feels like football season's actually here. The finals just in, so it's like, all right, we're in the middle of summer radio. Let's get to start talking college football. Unfortunately, things aren't as rocking and rolling up here at college football as they are down in ATX. But hey, we're still here to talk ball and have a good time today.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk in seasons when hope springs eternal, no matter what happens. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Lexington in bluegrass country. Mark Stoops, the tenure continues. He's there in Lexington again. Doesn't feel like the vibes are great though.
No, the vibes are not great. In fact, the vibes are at their best, and it's kind of a self-deprecating vibe. Motivated Mark Stoops has become the offseason. He's our messiah essentially for the fan base, because a lot of what Stoops did from like the actual, it's like, how are you going to make it better? I'm more motivated now than ever to make it better. So people use that as sort of a joke, like, well, finally we have a motivated Mark Stoops, and that joke has become such a big part of the fan base that now it's like, okay, you know what? Like, screw it. This was like our copium for a little bit, but now we're going to have some fun with it. Because from an X's and O's standpoint, Kentucky actually should end up being a decent team. They're like your annoying team at the bottom of the SEC for SEC opponents. But the lack of star power is going to be an issue that I think pops up in some of these games. So as down as some of the fans are and some are ready to run the motivated Mark Stoops out of town, I actually think he's going to do just well enough to kind of keep you coming back for more.
They went, as you can see, 4-8 last year, 1-7 in the SEC with a little bit of a surprising win against Ole Miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as they come back, they are kind of playing the portal game at quarterback again, but they're kind of not. Cutter Boley, who got the start, I think, in Austin last year, and what was one of the ugliest football games I think either of us have ever seen. He's back on the roster. A lot of room to grow for him, but they also brought in Zach Calzada, trying to tap into the incarnate word pipeline that's produced some great quarterbacks, prolific quarterbacks, most recent being Cam Ward. But what are maybe the expectations under center, under yet a new offensive coordinator, right?
Well, actually, that's the big deal. This is the first time since the COVID year that they are not breaking in a new offensive coordinator. So Bush Hamden is getting his second season under his belt. And the plan initially was for Brock Vandegrift to give 2 years for Cutter Boley to kind of come along so you can finally stop playing the transfer portal game every year. Well, then he got his head taken off down at Tennessee. That was one of a myriad of injuries he dealt with throughout the year. And Brock was just like, you know what? I don't need to deal with this anymore. I'm done. I'm ready to hang it up. I'm ready to move on. So they had to go back to the portal well because as well as Boley played in the final second half, 3/4 of that Texas game, he didn't lead any scoring drives. They came up short, I believe, in all of those. And so you saw him do some good stuff against a great secondary. And they said, you know what? Let's go ahead and start him for the Louisville game. And it was just a disaster. And it's clear that he does need a little bit of time to grow into it. He was a reclass kid too. So it's like, do we want to threaten to stunt the growth of this first good, seemingly high school quarterback recruit we've had in a decade? Let's go get an old guy. So they went out and got the oldest guy they could find. And that's Zach Calzada, who, you know what, Joe? I actually like Calzada quite a bit. I know it was a little weird how he had the nice pop at Texas A&M, and then when he goes to Auburn, there's an injury, and that's a Brian Harsin disaster. So he goes incarnate word. He puts up some gaudy numbers, and the thing that I like right now, Kentucky is they're having to do a hard reset from a roster standpoint, and typically you do that after a coaching change. They're doing this while keeping their coach. So you need good culture, guys. And I feel like Calzada has some high-quality intangibles. The sort of just lean on me, I'll put the team on my back, and I'll go get it done. When Stoops had his first big breakthroughs with a similar quarterback as Steven Johnson. So, like, I actually really like Calzada and think he might be one of the second or third best quarterbacks they've had at Kentucky. And like it's third and long, like, you know what, he'll find a way and just say, F it, let's go get this first down. I think he's going to have a lot of those kind of F it plays. They're going to work out well. But the issue that they really are going to struggle with is I worry about the talent at wide receiver at their skill positions. The running backs might be there. Seth McGowan, who you might have recalled from his time at Oklahoma, like, I think he's a ball player. Dante Dowdell is a pretty good running back from Nebraska in short yardage situations. But the pass catchers, the room is – Joe, you always worry when you ask about certain guys and they tell you there's good competition at that position. That just means everybody kind of sucks. So, like, I'm worried that the best guys might be true freshmen or guys who haven't necessarily produced at other Power 5 programs. That might have the injury plague or whatever. So that's my biggest overall worry is just like you got to have some receivers that can get open in this league, and I don't know how many they actually have for Zach Calzada to throw to.
I know Dane Key's in Nebraska. I know Berrien Brown's in LSU. So who's he throwing to?
Well, Jamori Macklin, he's cousins with Jeremy Macklin, and he was really good at North Texas 2 years ago. I think he led the league in receiving yards and explosive plays. They tried him at slot because they wanted – I mean, Berrien Brown was a cash cow. You pay that guy a lot of money, you're going to throw him the ball a lot. And it didn't work. Well, towards the end of the year, Berrien's getting hurt. So they're like, all right, let's actually move Macklin to the outside. That's his preferred position. And it did work. You saw it work in flashes. I'm a little bit worried because it was just in flashes. But he's their best, most explosive player off the jump. Kendrick Law was like he's at Alabama and he's a real physical guy. And they're going to try to run the ball a lot, but I worry about the route running, which is not something you want to worry about as a slot receiver. And then after that, like it is just a bunch of guys who have like, well, this guy Ashton Cozart, he was a 4-star recruit, but he didn't do anything at SMU or Oregon. J.J. Hester was in Oklahoma, but he's been injured his whole career. Like there's a lot of guys with some injury red flags. But they did recruit. They brought in 5 freshmen, and I kind of like their long-term potential. It's just like, how much can you do this year? And that's what a lot of it boils down to is how many of those guys are going to be good enough to play right away. And I don't know how much I can trust some of them. So
kind of quickly on the offensive line, I'm glad you mentioned Habden. I forgot about him. He and Sark kind of have some overlapping tendencies. I think they kind of come from the same school. Do they have the guys up front to maybe block for McGowan?
That was Kentucky's offensive line stunk. You had to kill it in the portal. And, I mean, it was even right down to the last day, Joe. I was like, they're going to have to find a left tackle in the spring, and I don't think they're going to do it. What Kentucky did is they deviated from their old ways, which was we're going to get power conference guys. Maybe they didn't play as much. We're going to bring them over. Aside from Josh Braun, who was an all-SEC guy at Arkansas a couple of years back, they all went like, we're going to the Bowling Greens of the world. We're going to New Mexico State. We're going to get these all-conference guys at the G5 level, and we're going to play them up. So they retooled the entire offensive line. And what I really like is I think their guard center guard combination is going to be good because they have Braun, as I mentioned. Jalen Farmer's entering his second year as a starter. He's a former Florida Gator who was there for a couple of years. And then Jagger Burton was one of these guys that kind of stunted his growth because he played too early, and he's the biggest he's ever been. They tried him at center, and it failed in previous years. They're just saying, screw it. You know this now. You can do this. Play center for us. If that move worked, which it seemingly started to in the spring, and it looked like I think that will be the strength of their offense. Is just we're going to run it up the A gaps. We got 3 guys there. And then we've got some all-conference guys at offensive tackle that should be good enough. So is it going to be the best offensive line in the SEC? No. But it's not going to be the worst, right? It'll probably be in that like 8 to 11 range if you were ranking SEC offensive lines. And is that good enough to be able to run the ball 55, 60% of the time and win games in the SEC? I don't know. But if Mark Stoops is going to win games, they're going to have to drag teams into rock fights. They did it last year against Georgia. They damn near won the game. They should have won the game. They got hosed on that pick 6 being overturned. They might be able to get into a rock fight with Tennessee. You don't know about Auburn, how they're going to do this year with Jackson Arnold there. So your kind of hope is, all right, the formula is there to get teams in rock fights. But then I guess the questions then turn to the other side of the football where.
Hi, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, you need to contact Josh Holden. The Metroplex is massive, and the local real estate market is full of nuances and subtleties only an experienced agent like Josh can help you navigate. From Preston Hollow to Highland Park, Uptown to Old East Dallas, Josh will be there to guide you through the process of buying or selling your home. Now, Josh is a UT grad, a lifetime Texas Ex. He's reliable, savvy, and from a personal perspective, he's a really great guy to chat with. So why don't you give him a call and chat with him today about your real estate needs in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. His number is 972-917-8081. That's 972-917-8081. Or you can reach him at his website, which is joshholdenrealestate.com. All the contact details are in the description below. Thanks so much, and back to the show.
I like what they did with the defensive line. They've got more pass production out of that. They got one of the best pass rushers from the FCS ranks, who's a Cincinnati kid. They got a nose from Washington State, who's an explosive pass rusher. But the strength of that group for a while has been play at linebacker. They've had multi-year starters at linebacker for a long time, and that's where I get a little worried because you got to stop the run, and I have questions about just like how stout those guys are at inside linebacker for him.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you have a big number 0 in the middle helping things out, that can cover up some things. So what does that look like without Deion Walker? And then maybe who are some of the playmakers on defense to watch for?
Well, the one, it's funny because the Washington State transfer I mentioned, David Gusta, he looks a foot shorter and 100 pounds lighter than Deion Walker. And when I was watching him, Joe, I'm like, there's no way he's going to be able to eat an A-gap in the run game. Like, it's not, but like, it's just a different way of going about things. For the longest time, Kentucky's like, hey, we're in the SEC. We got to have the biggest SOBs out there to stop the running lanes. Well, this year they're like, well, we got some of these big guys, but we need some of these guys with a little bit of juice to provide some pass rushing edge. We can't let guys just sit back there and pick us apart. So David Gusta, number 60, he's the guy who probably has some all-SEC potential as an interior defensive line because of his ability to shoot gaps and get into the backfield and make plays. So I really like Gusta. I'm high on him if he can stay healthy at his size. You got to remember, he was doing this at Washington State in the old Pac-12 and against whoever the hell Washington State was playing last year. But I think the part, like the low-key strength of this Kentucky defense, though, is the secondary where they kept Kentucky in games last year. Part of it was because you had Max Hairston, a future first-round draft pick at cornerback. But people forget that Hairston, he missed, basically half the season last year after he got a staph infection in his shoulder. So the secondary, they were returning a lot of guys there. Terrion Nichols was outstanding as a freshman. And then two other guys really flashed at corner, J.Q. Hardaway and D.J. Waller. It was like they could never kind of get it right on a consistent standpoint, but you just hope now that they're entering year 3 of college football that light bulb turns on. They're big, long zone eaters. So the Kentucky secondary, that is one thing when you're looking around at all these really talented quarterbacks in the SEC, you at least feel like they'll be able to hold their own if Kentucky can apply some pressure on the quarterback and not just completely get gashed in the running game, which we saw so many times. Jarquez Hunter had like 350 rushing yards. Louisville lit him up on the ground at the end of the year. And, if you got a quarterback who can run around like Arch down there, you hope that he just isn't breaking a chain and running all over you, which that is, I'm fascinated. I know we're here to talk Kentucky, but I'm fascinated how the Arch leg usage, like what will that be?
Us too.
Because it's like he was so good at it, but it's a little bit different when you're the franchise guy versus a guy that's only coming in every once in a while.
This will be Texas' first ever trip to play football in Lexington. The previous 2 matchups last year, and then I think in the 50s for Texas versus Kentucky were in Austin. A lot of ways to get to Lexington. We were talking off air for a second. I went to Louisville to try to watch Greg Brown in Texas play Calipari and the Wildcats in a game that got coveted. I don't think Texas made their way to Rupp this year. I know Kentucky made their way to Austin. So this is going to be a new trip for a lot of Texas fans. If you're going to Louisville, maybe what are the places to do? If you're going through Cincinnati, what's the way to do it? And how do you find bourbon in Kentucky?
You just walk outside and it smacks you in the face. So the Roush recommendation, if you're planning this road trip, which you should be, because Keeneland is in session. Keeneland is one of the most beautiful racetracks in all of America. If you've never done a day at the track, I live a stone's throw away from Churchill Downs. I'm addicted to it. I love horse racing so much.
Season then, right?
Oh yeah. So normally, it's like an unspoken rule in the SEC that Kentucky only plays night games at home when Keeneland's open in October. So a lot of people will tell you to tailgate Keeneland during the day and then do the football game. The track will wear you out, though. Like, trying to do both can be a little bit tough. So what I would do, I believe there might be an Allegiant flight from, or, it's one of those cheap flights, either from CVG in Northern Kentucky or to Louisville, where just try to get here Thursday. Because I think the ideal thing to do is if you could somehow get here early Thursday, maybe you go to Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace gets the highest remarks as far as distilleries goes, and that's in between Louisville and Lexington. So maybe you do a Buffalo Trace tour, and then you do a day at Keeneland, but you got to go to Keeneland, go to the races. They've got a great tailgate scene there too, where it's a huge grassy area. They call it the Hill, where you can tailgate there. They have shuttle buses that can take you right up to the track. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to watch racing. And then I mentioned the distilleries. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you can't do Buffalo Trace, though, and if you actually want to stay in and around Lexington, like Airbnb it, which is also a lot of fun, there's a place in Lexington called the Distillery District. I don't know if you can actually get your bottles there, but that is a very cool, like, outdoor. We're going to eat outside. They've got pizza. They've got tacos. They've got ice cream. Stoops has a distillery tasting experience in town. RD1 is his spirits that he owns. So Lexington downtown too. Like I've been to a lot of these SEC towns. It is a great, like, we're just going to go walking around looking for stuff. There's nice restaurants. There's a pavilion area. It's not quite the scale of Austin, which is, a huge city, but it is, unlike a lot of these really small SEC towns, like, it's a pretty good sized city. So there's a lot to see and do, but when you're coming in, you make sure, Texas fans, you get to Keeneland, because it's an experience unlike any other. I get the Keeneland Breeze. It's like an orangey, bourbony drink. But their burgoo is world famous. So Keeneland, it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's hard to win there as like a serious horse player. It's hard to win there. So just go get lucky. Pick some numbers. Go get lucky. Have some fun. You'll enjoy it. It's usually beautiful weather, and you're probably going to enjoy a football win too.
I've been to Weller, and so I'm trying to collect my blade and bow keys to get into that club, but I'm gonna have to expand elsewhere. And yeah, I know, looking for that number 4, right? That's the toughest one. So Nick, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for coming on, talking about the Cats, and we'll be in touch with KSR when October 18th comes around.
It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to it. You all will probably be looking forward to it more so than Kentucky fans.
Hey, night game nonetheless. Should be a lot of fun.
Exactly.
Thanks again.